Donald Jeffries. Author of Hidden History and Survival of the Richest. Host of The Donald Jeffries Show. Billy Ray Valentine. Host of the Infinite Fringe podcast. Researcher, truth seeker from the Bronx, New York. Tony Arterburn. Radio host, combat veteran, precious metals analyst, and alt historian. Together, they take on the headlines of the week, decode the disinformation, and plow through the mainstream propaganda. Unauthorized, unscripted, and unintimidated. This is America Unplugged.
What is going on? Hope everybody's doing well. The War on Reality Report. It's America Unplugged. I'm Billy Ray Valentine, and I got with me the usual suspects. Thank you for joining us today, this morning, or afternoon, whatever the hell it is, wherever you are. Tony Arterburn, the wisest of all the wolves. What's up, sir? How are you?
I'm good. I was just making sure I don't have MS-13 on my hand tattoo. It's ancient Greek, so maybe it is. if we run it through certain translations, hold on. I think ICE is here. I'll be right back.
No. Go the other way. You're going to cover up those tattoos, man. Oh man. Yeah, man. We'll discuss that. It probably is MS-13 that you have on. Probably in ancient Greek.
I should pay for my translator.
Don Jeffries, the legendary. What's up, sir?
Tony does have more tattoos than he used to, so that's cause for concern in some areas. But yeah, no, these were living in strange times. Just watching the show, waiting for the next script as the Trumpenstein turns.
The one thing I've never done in my life, well, I haven't done a lot of things, but never got a tattoo. I had never committed to something that I wanted on my body like that permanently. Might be a wise decision given what's going on here in the United States at this point. But what does it matter? You know, they'll just Photoshop something on me and say, well, look, he clearly had MS-13 tattooed on his back. And Trump would say, yes, absolutely, he did. 100%. It's not Photoshop. Now, we have a lot to talk about here today. Don has some things that are pressing that Tony also wants to talk about, and civil liberties. Man, we're done. I think I don't want to say we're fully done, but we might be. You know, I think if the Trump administration didn't get into power, we might have had a chance to reverse it, and that was a long shot. It was like a Hail Mary, but at least we still had that. You know, to put things back on track. I don't know if we're coming back from this. I hope so. Maybe we won't come back as a superpower, you know, but at least maintain the essence of what America used to be, because it's certainly not that anymore. And while some people will argue differently, I would say that these people aren't rooted in reality. You just don't know what's going on around you at this point, because or maybe you just haven't seen it yet. It hasn't affected your life. And for a lot of people, it needs to do that for them to flip. You know, you can't. Somebody asked me, well, actually, Wheezy, you guys know Wheezy. Wheezy asked me, like, Billy, what was the turning point for you? What happened? You know, and I told him, I'm like, I don't know. I can't pinpoint it. And I'm like, and it's different for everyone. Everyone will have a point where they come to and they're like, wow, I was so off about this, or I was so off about that. And a lot of times I would be defiant about things that I was totally wrong about, you know, and just say, I wasn't being defiant on purpose. I legit believed what I believed. And somehow it shifted and it changed, you know, to the point that I needed to restructure the Infinite Fringe and do things differently. So, I mean, everybody gets there at their own point in time. So we just need people to get there quicker right now and realize that this is a huge problem. But I think a lot of people do. 39% in some polls are not happy with what Trump is doing. Of course, there are some that say 46. It's all over the place. Tony, what's up, man? Give us some thoughts real quick.
Yeah, I think we've been in a lurch towards technocratic takeover of all speech in the last decade, especially, and ramping up since 2018. Is August 6, 2018, when the mega platforms, all the technocratic controlled social media outlets colluded. You talk about a real collusion, not Russia collusion. It was the collusion to silence over 800 different websites and outlets, starting with InfoWars. And I remember that vividly. As a matter of fact, I broadcasted on, like, they had the anniversary. It was like 1 year later, I was hosting a show there, and then again on the next year on August 6th. So no, I think it's a big problem. It's all over the West. We kid ourselves at the national level thinking that the Bill of Rights is still intact, but really the only hope we have, and I think that is a good hope, because I think humanity is, on a historical timeline, we are decentralizing. I think if you look at things like the American Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, these things are a decentralizing move of history. However, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, the overlords, the lizard people, they like centralization. That's when you get to things like the New World Order. And that's why they pushed, the internet used to be, and Don talked about this in Hidden History, his seminal work. When you go back and you look at that last chapter, Don, I remember it vividly. I used to listen to it all the time. And he talked about how the internet was one of the ways that we can push back against the dystopia. However, since that time, since Hidden History came out, it's been a big push to centralize.
Yes.
A lot of that's blown up in their face, and there has been some, like today, we're broadcasting on some centralized programs and some decentralized programs. Some things have happened, like, for good or ill, Elon Musk bought X. I don't know that we could still broadcast on Twitter or X had he not done that. I was getting lots of flagged content on there, even for innocuous stuff. Facebook, other things have laxed a little bit, but then you get places like YouTube, you say the wrong thing, you're done. We have to constantly stay ahead of that ball. So it's a mixed bag, but it's a constant battle. I mean, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. So I don't think that, we are seeing that there is some push here, especially with, and we're going to get into that. Don knows a great deal more than I do about this latest bill. But I do think that we are more aware than we were, and that gives us the opportunity to do something about it. If you talk to somebody about censorship 10 years ago, nobody really knew what you were talking about. People today know. If you post 2020, if you wanted to talk about what was actually going on, you're at risk of having your channels taken down. The internet usually started out with websites that was decentralized. People moved onto the platforms. They called them the digital public square, and then of course that was taken away, and then it's been back and forth. And I don't know that we're entering a dark age unless we all just lay down and we accept the psyop that somebody else has got this, because they don't. That's the scary part, is that the powers that who's elected doesn't have your back. You have to do this on a decentralized local level, state level. And I think we will see in the future, just like we see sanctuary cities, I think you'll see sanctuary counties for the Bill of Rights, things like the Second Amendment and the First.
It really depends on the interpretation of the Bill of Rights and what look what Stephen Miller is doing. And I hope that people are taking account it's like taking off the veil, when he's like facilitate, when the Supreme Court says facilitate, he took that word and bent it and molded it into whatever he wanted to achieve whatever goal that he wanted. He didn't go by the actual meaning of the word. And this is what the Trump administration has done. And those who are responsible for the Trump administration, they have done this for quite some time. And Steve Bannon, in a clip we played a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, he said, it's all about the interpretation of this document. So it's, in my opinion, it's not enough, to have a Bill of Rights, a sanctuary city. It's what is the interpretation that these people want to carry out? We need to teach it to the letter of the law, and I don't know if we can do that anymore. I'm certainly not in the next 4 years. They're gonna treat it, teach it, if they're gonna teach it at all, with their slant on it, with their bent on it. This is something we need to be looking at. Don, what's up, buddy?
Well, yeah, I think that the Bill of Rights has been under attack for a very long time. Majority of our leaders for a long time don't support it, and probably a majority of our people don't support it any longer, because that's how dumbed down we are. So nobody supports free speech, and so Stephen Miller or anybody else, I don't know how he's interpreting it, but I know how others have interpreted it, and the idea that you have people that think there's such a thing as hate speech, which is an Orwellian term for thought crime. I mean, hate's a human emotion. What are you talking about? Hate, and it's in the eye of the beholder. We all hate something, but that's become a standard, especially in the world of the left. Now, the world of the right, they pay lip service to free speech. Trump has talked about being against censorship and all that stuff, which the other side doesn't. Well, actually, they do when they want to defend genderqueer or whatever that book was in the library. Then suddenly they're against banning books, but because they want genderqueer in the library, that's all. And so they're upset that genderqueer is not in your kid's library. That's the only book they I guarantee you they wouldn't want Masking the Truth, my book about COVID, in their library. They'd be up in arms over that. But in terms of the right, and that would probably be Stephen Miller, who's Jewish, like so many of these advisors. Their interpretation of the Bill of Rights wouldn't include criticism of Israel. And so that's where we stand on that issue. Trump and all their love of freedom of speech stops at Israel and Palestine. So is that better than the left's, who has a lot more stipulations on it? I don't know. But no one believes in free speech. No one supports the speech of other people. And that's why we're talking about this. Tony alluded to it, and I'm very concerned about this Take It Down law, which is getting very little play. And it just passed the House after passing the Senate. And the Senate had the approval of Ted Cruz and Nancy Klobuchar, or Amy Klobuchar, whatever her name is. But so it has somebody on the supposed right, somebody on the left, and these strange bedfellows. Well, they're not. If you look when people are talking about the JFK assassination or 9/11 or free speech, Israel, things like that, whatever war is there, you're going to find those kind of people, and that's the uniparty. That's the bipartisan nature of the debate. But this is a very dangerous act. Under the purposes, usually they throw child pornography out there, that they want to censor the internet because do you believe in child pornography? As if child pornography is readily available out there. I mean, I'd like these people to tell me, okay, where are you finding child pornography on the internet? But this has been going on, and before they got to social media, you had everybody, including Donna Rice, if you remember, of all people, if you remember Gary Hart's concubine or whatever you'd call her that destroyed his presidential candidate. She became, a crusader against pornography on the internet. This is before they could. That's when, as Tony was talking about in Hidden History, I was saying, hey, it doesn't look like they can do anything about this because they want to censor this, but they can't. But I didn't count on what they would do with social media. But so you have people like that using the bugaboo of child pornography or just pornography in general to exploiting women and things like that. And that's what this act does. And they're throwing in the so-called deep fakes because of AI. I don't know how many people are doing this, but apparently it was triggered by a thing with, before it was triggered with Kamala Harris. You remember they had a very good, AI thing, just like her doing something stupid. And the left was all up in arms about that. Well, apparently they had one recently with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, where I think Trump was kissing Musk's feet or something like that. And again, looked very realistic. So this apparently triggered the right, that we can't have this. And how, I don't know, that's not nudity or anything, but they threw that in there. Well, what if you have somebody, revenge porn, where a lot of these bitter ex-husbands will throw pictures, real and imagined pictures of their ex-wives up naked just to get back at them. So I don't know. Should that be illegal? I just think that's an area I don't like to go into, a slippery slope. But you give people the power, and under this act, you have a 48-hour window. So if you're accused of it, let's say, one of us is accused of somebody goes after my blog. This is ridiculous. This guy's the biggest thought criminal you've ever seen. We got to take this down. And they could just use some term. Well, he's anti-Semitic, he's racist, whatever term they would want to come up with. And I forget the terminology, but it's very vague, and anything could fit under that, about the offensive model. And then so the provider has 48 hours to either verify, in other words, defend what the objectionable material is, or take it down. They're going to take it down. They only have 48 hours to do it. So this is very disturbing. Trump hasn't signed the bill yet, and I'm a little hopeful that this is going to be another deep fake legislation like the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, where you hear these things, they're passed, and the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act passed overwhelmingly in the House. The Senate would pass it. To my knowledge, it never went to the Senate. And Trump, couldn't sign it fast enough. So what happened to that? I don't know. So I'm hoping maybe this will be more fear porn and it will never happen. It'll get people, they'll laugh at people like me getting upset about it. But it's disturbing. And coming on the heels of what we're seeing with Trump, we talk more about that, but in terms of empowering the police more, we already have, going back to the 80s with Reagan, the SWAT team, no-knock raids were born. And they become all the rage, and both sides love them. No matter how many times they go to the wrong house and kill people, kill dogs, kill stray bullets, killing toddlers, and all that's happened. And most of the time, it's in the wrong house. So even if they're going after some drug suspect or whatever, but now with the onus on the MS-13 stuff, they've given them, it's basically any suspected gang member. So basically, it could be anybody named Sanchez, or whatever, Gonzalez. Okay, well that's probably some MS-13 gang members in there, I would imagine. So it gives them the power to do it. And they can have no-knock raids. And they're going to go to the wrong Gonzalez and Sanchez house because they do it all the time. And they'll probably kill innocent people. So that's very disturbing. I don't see anybody on the left talking about it. I mean, they are upset about the guy in El Salvador, who I still can't, as I've said, I can't even figure that story out. I don't know if he's an MS-13 gang member, if he's a good guy, if he's completely innocent. I have no idea about it, but he's got a lot of attention. But it's all focused on that, congressman visiting him and stuff. To me, I think it's a much broader picture, and there should be a way to deport illegals without doing that stuff. And somehow they're not doing that. I don't see what I would expect to see. I don't see that. To me, you go to Home Depot where they're all lined up, and they've been lined up for decades now. I can go in my area every morning at 7 a.m. or whatever if I wanted to go over there, and I can guarantee you, I mean, maybe there's a few that are there illegal, but if you show up there, if you have people with ice jackets just showing up there, they'll get the message. I mean, and you just say, okay, just checking on your citizenship status. That's the way to do it. But
what happened to the criminals, Don? What happened to the criminals? Because we're supposed to go get the criminals, right? So
that's
out at Home Depot. They're not criminals. They're looking for jobs, right?
No, so exactly. But
the whole purpose of this, right? The whole reason is invasion.
Supposedly,
all this other stuff, right? That they want to use the Alien Enemies Act and all because it's an invasion, and all these bad people are raping, pillaging, plundering, stealing, all of this stuff that's going on, right? Where are those people? How come they have to go to Home Depot? How come they have to deport 75% of innocent people down to freaking El Salvador? Where are all the criminals?
That's the problem. Is that we don't know. There's a discussion
where they are. Go ahead.
Okay, said that. Well, that one guy Garcia again. I don't understand it. It's in dispute. Did he commit a crime? I don't know. Do those symbols on his knuckles really mean him? How the hell would I know? I don't know what MS-13 symbols are, but I don't know. Donald Trump seems to know. I'm sure he's an expert on it, but I really don't. This is the problem with. That's why I say you have to concentrate on the people at Home Depot and those people. Yes, they're not criminals in the sense that they're committing any. I guess not. Hopefully not. But if the problem is you want to hold people accountable for entering the country illegally, you go to the most logical place where you can find them. And even beyond that, you don't even have to do that. You just do what Proposition 187 tried to do in California, but a federal judge threw it out. And that is make your citizenship status dependent on federal any kind of government benefits dependent on your citizenship status. So if you're not here legally in some sense, you can't get any government benefits. You will see self-deportation. And I don't mean Donald Trump's touchback nonsense where he wants them to self-deport and then will bring you back in legally. It's like, what sense does that make? But that's what he's proposing. So that's it's a huge problem. And this is because it wasn't helping by the 10 million or whatever that came in through Biden's open door policy the last 4 years when Trump did nothing about it his first time. And he's deporting fewer people than Biden is. So I don't know who he's going after, Billy Ray. because we're told the stats are he's deporting fewer people than Joe Biden. I don't know how that's possible. But again, both sides have a reason to lie. The left is hysterical, and they're acting like he is rounding up people in schools and all that stuff. And
well,
but
there's
apparently,
evidence for that, Don.
well, somehow the numbers. Well, he might be. Maybe those are the people he's deporting. Maybe he's going after little kids. I don't know. That would be Trumpenstein. That would make sense that he's deporting the wrong people. But
Right.
on the other side, the MAGA people are cheerleading him. Yeah, see, told you. Promises made, promises kept.
Yeah,
So I don't know what's going on. I just look at it like this is a Trumpenstein project. Everybody riled up, and the problem isn't solved. I don't think it's being solved. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right, Don. We don't agree too often on these points anymore, but I think you're absolutely right. I think that no matter what, both sides are going to do what they're going to do. I do think that there is evidence for all of this stuff the left is claiming, because it is happening. It's happening. I mean, if you don't, want to buy into it, that's one thing. But is it happening? Absolutely. On what level is it happening? That's another thing that we need to talk about, because they're not deporting people, on, to the levels that they wanted to, or that they said they were going to do. That is not happening either. But they're sure as hell planning for it. All right. Eric Prince is involved. And they want to have mass trials. This is all in the works, so they're definitely sitting down and thinking about how they're going to do this. But, Chris Buckham in the chat, God bless him. He says, if you come into this country, you're a criminal. If you come into this country illegally, you're a criminal. That's not exactly what went down, right? They said they were rapists, murderers, all types of stuff like that. Where are those people, right? And of course, again, it's scale, right? Those people do exist, but to what level? And that's what I was yelling about all of this time while we, elected a freaking madman, into office. And now it's fleshing itself out. Are there criminals? Are there gang members? Absolutely. But in order to keep up the numbers that they were saying, they have to go get innocent people that are just here working, right? And at that level, you have to start thinking about, why are we kicking people out that are being productive members of society and paying into a system where they will get nothing in return? These are just the facts. So we have to start talking about it. Why do you want this? Why do you want these people out of the country? Why are we deporting American citizens now? That's yet another thing, but hey, I want to get Tony's take on all of this. And then I'm going to show, of course, the video, because Don was talking about it. It would have been a perfect segue, but we need Tony's take. And then we'll talk about MS-13 being tattooed on somebody's hand. Maybe not. Tony can break that down. He knows Latin. What's up, Tony? What's going on? Well, now I really hate him. Go ahead, Tony. What's up?
Even the globalist, George W. Bush, admitted that 1 in 12 people that cross the border illegally into the United States, and that doesn't count people who fly in or get in through cargo ships and other. I'm just talking about the southern border. 1 in 12, supposedly by statistic, have a criminal record. So if you were to adjust that for how many people are here illegally, you're talking probably 3 million or so.
Oh, that's a stretch, buddy. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I mean, because there's probably about 30 million or so illegal aliens in the United States through chain migration and other things. I would assume, because it's been 11 or 12 million since I was 9. So I imagine that number increased. I mean, they just that number from, for decades. And so it's probably a conservative number, somewhere around 30 million. So about 10% of that, it's about 3 million people have criminal records. However, I agree with both of you in the sense that I look at this in a different light. One, I think a lot of this is for effect. I think it's to cause division. It's to get score political points, or just show they're not doing the heavy lifting that would require us. One, can anybody raise their hand and say, "Oh, the border's secure now," which is not a hard job to do. I mean, it's really not you can just order it done and then it's done, but we still have not done that. Okay. So it's not like, there's probably a little bit of increased border security. Maybe they had a couple of plans in mind or people to intercept. But again, that's something we could do like that. It's not a hard job, but we don't do it. So what are these little raids and other things for, or going into schools and things that Billy, you brought up, or deporting, American citizens, all this stuff? Those are alarming things. However, I think when it's just like COVID 1984, and when I reported on this in October of 2020, Bill Sardi put out an article. I'll never forget this, on Lou Rockwell, and I remember reading it on InfoWars, and it was the number of deaths. And I'm using this as an example. It was the number of deaths in 2020 were going to be comparable to the number of deaths in 2019. So there was no thing that was like, there was no this new black plague times Ebola divided by AIDS. It was not that. And that's what I will say probably with all of this. I bet you when it's all said and done, and the Obama deportations will either be on par, or it would be right at, or maybe more than what we're seeing here in our timeline. That's just my opinion based off of what I've seen. And I know there are some other things that are alarming, but I don't think that the mass scale of it, and I'd love Don's take on this, I don't think that those numbers, I don't think we're going to see the same thing that Obama had. Obama had more deportations than Trump did. And of course he only had that one term, but I'm saying, statistically, percentage wise, I would take a hard look at that. I don't know that we're going to see a big bump there.
Well, we also need to take a look at the why, Tony. Why are these things not manifesting the way they did under an Obama administration, right? And at the end of the day, at the end of the 4 years, if he doesn't stay, which is another real conversation that we need to start having, if the guy doesn't stay, right? To what lengths did he go to try to get this done, and was he stopped? Because they are actively in conversations with Eric Prince to build black sites, to hoard tons of illegal immigrants, have mass court hearings and mass deportations. And they're looking at ways to have it done, quote unquote, legally. They're digging at old laws and trying to see how they can mold them and how they can manipulate them in order to get the uneducated American public to go along with it and say that it's legal. This is what they're actively trying to do. Stephen Miller is down with it, and all the Bukele is down with it, and they involved Eric Prince. Go look it up. So they're actively trying to do this, and if they can do it, if they get away with it, they absolutely will. Okay, so if we get to the end of 4 years and we manage to kick this piece of filth out of office, which I'm not fully optimistic that we can do, right? And the deportation numbers are below what Obama did, people are going to say, oh, look, he didn't even do it. But why? We have to look at the why. Hopefully, whatever the courts are doing to get in the way of it, stop this sort of thing. But then, he's ignored the courts at least twice that I can think of, the Supreme Court, so and it's only been 3 months. So at this point, we really need to take a serious hard look at these things and not just say, well, look the other way because you don't think it's gonna happen, and that opinion is can't be totally discounted either. But we have to look at what they're trying to do. This is something that they're actively trying to do. Are they going to be successful? I don't know. I hope not. I sincerely hope not.
I'm not sure what.
Go ahead, Don.
Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm not sure what they're trying to do, Billy Ray, because it doesn't make any sense. Again, but something should have been done a long time ago. It may be too late to do anything about it, and there's too many people with a vested interest in keeping the situation the way it is. You have the left has what they thought was a loyal demographic that would vote for them. That appears to be changing in the last couple elections. Supposedly, we're told a lot more of them voted for Trump. Now, whether they did that just for Trump or they would vote for other Republicans, I don't know. But even more importantly, the right and the left both. The main reason I think the Great Replacement is part of it. They want to replace the white population here and in all other countries. It's happening everywhere. And it's only happening in former white countries, not happening in China, Japan. They're not taking any migrants in. But the cheap labor thing is very important. They have used illegals since they started coming in to shame Americans and call them lazy and say they're just doing the jobs you won't do because they will work cheaper, obviously. And this is what has happened. This is why I wrote about in Survival of the Richest and why most of the left didn't like that book. Because the fact I said immigration, legal and illegal, because you got to throw in the foreign visa workers that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy love. They can't have enough of those guys. We don't need them. We don't need any visa workers. And we don't need any immigrants, any, legal or illegal. We already have too many people here. We have so many people that you shamed most Americans, especially white Americans, and not having kids. There's too many people in this world. It's ridiculous. Why do we want more people? There's not enough jobs to go around now. And what jobs are here? They've taken that whole blue collar stuff that I worked for when I was very young, those jobs that were okay. And all the people I worked with back then, and they already had lots of Filipinos and Vietnamese. They were the first wave of immigrants that came in there. And everybody had a car there. It paid enough where you could have a car. Now you see those same blue-collar workers, they don't have cars. They're Ubering to work and wasting half their pay on that. That's the situation they've created. It created, and immigration has had a huge impact on that because they will work for less money, legal and illegal. The legals from Africa will work for less money as well because they're elevating their standard of living just by being here. The problem is the American citizen standard of living is being lowered to meet these new lowered expectations. That's why the entire problem is so bad, and it's hurt the blue collar workers the most. But again, the people, the elitists, from the rich people who hire, and this has been going on since the 90s. I remember when I first discovered all the people that I knew that had money, that had nannies. Every one of them hired an elite. You remember, was it Bill Clinton? Remember his first two? Didn't he have a couple attorney general candidates? They both had nanny problems.
Yes.
They were hiring illegals. They couldn't afford to hire somebody that was here legally because, again, they want cheap labor. And they didn't mind the fact that, and I've known these people. They literally have people taking care of their children more than them that don't speak English at all. And so it's great. My children are learning Spanish. Like, but why are you? I don't understand. Why don't you hire somebody that's here legally? But they won't do it. So they have that vested interest. You have all the restaurants, the farm workers, all the things that Trump now wants to go touch back and all that stuff. They baked that all in. I talk to people. I guess they think that before we had tons of people coming here from Mexico, and other places in South America that we didn't mow our lawns. I said, how do you think we took care of our lawns? Do you think that we didn't have people up on the roofs working, doing landscaping? Young people think, well, you're going to get Americans to do that. Well, maybe you can't now because they've made them to the point where they're all soy boys too. Maybe they can't do it, but this is a huge problem. But something has to be done because what happens Billy is focusing all this on Trump and his people, and I understand that. And but if you take him out of the equation, if Biden was or if Kamala Harris was president or whatever, all these problems would still be here. Everything we look at, the disparity of wealth would be tremendous. The civil liberties would still be eroded. You would still have pushes for war with Iran or whoever they want to go to war with. The only thing would be missing is Trump's personality. And that's what got people so upset. They can't stand this guy's personality. And I think it's blinded them to everything else, as if you take Trump out of the equation, or any of those people, Stephen Miller, any of them, you take them out of the equation, what are you going to get? Rachel Levine? People like that are going to be in charge of health? I mean, people criticizing Bobby Kennedy Jr., the guy's the fittest 70-year-old I've ever seen. At least he's a good, advertisement for it. But look at the people that Biden had. Look at the people that Obama had. It's not like they're any better. So I think we need to look at this. We're in a terrible situation, but it's not just because of Trump. Trump, at least on the surface, claims he wants to do something about it. Now, he's going about it all wrong, it looks like, and he's probably making things worse, maybe because of it. But I think it's to focus just on him is, lets them all off the hook. Because it's not like before Trump came along, what we talk that doesn't excuse all the horrible things that we used to talk about. 9/11, Trump had nothing to do with 9/11. or Waco or Oklahoma City, all the things, even the Epstein files. I don't know what he had to do with those. Virginia Giuffre claimed he didn't do anything to her or anybody else, and then wanted to talk to Elon Musk in her last tweet. Said, Elon, PM me last October. Did Elon ever do that? I don't know. And now she's dead. So, this is just massive corruption everywhere. Trump is he's the one that we're being sold as he's our Goldstein. He's the guy. Hey, this is the guy this is your choice. You don't want all this other stuff, all these horrible people that are all the same, and you know what they're going to do. This is the guy you get. Go with Trump. He'll say nasty things to them and get in arguments with them, call it fake news, and that's where we are right now. Those are our choices.
I think the hatred of the left is strong, and I get it. But to say that we'd be in the same position if Kamala Harris were president of the United States, it's just.
It's be a different kind of position.
What's that, buddy?
It's be a different kind of position.
It'll definitely be a different. I can agree with that. It'll be a different kind of position. Donald Trump has vastly accelerated the decline of the United States of America. He has made it known to all the countries around the world that we are not reliable. And regardless of reliability, we are not needed in the economy either. They're going to find different ways around us. They're already looking at it. And while that was apparent to a lot of us here in the alternative media for quite some time, now it's apparent to everyone. And Donald Trump is the one that has made that happen. It's been a vast acceleration. We've never seen this type of destruction in 3 months of the American government, the American economy, and American reputation around the world. These are just facts. If Kamala Harris was in office, at least we'd have a shot to push back on some of these things, have some type of reforms. Now, people are going along with the destruction. I don't get it. That's a lot of things. Go ahead, Tony, and then I want to show this article, and then I want to play some clips. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, I'll just close on this talk about immigration enforcement and all the rest that we were covering. And I wanted to, hey, Don, do you remember the operation that Eisenhower did back in the 50s? What it was called?
Operation Wetback. That's where the term wetback came from. Yeah, exactly.
That 3 million deported. That was just that's post World War II. We had it was a lot of lax on the border. There was a lot of migration back and forth. That was a military operation. Now I think I'm right on that number, Don. I think it's about 3 million that were deported.
Yeah, I think so.
And that was the country then. I don't think we even have the apparatus, and nothing signals that we have any of the stomach for that at this point. And I would also mention too that taking a step back on the political realm, guys, the midterms will be up next year. Okay. In politics, this is an eternity. Would it surprise anyone if this was the high watermark for MAGA and everything? With you get a Democratic Congress and Senate, it's impeachment for the next.
Let's do it. I am all for it. Let's impeach and remove.
Well, they won't happen. It'll be nothing happening, which would be great, by the way. If they're going to actually do something constructive and stop the wars, then let's just have gridlock.
Well, fine. I mean, that's you say that all the time. Let's just have gridlock. We do not have gridlock. Let's create some. How do we create some? I mean, if you go out and vote at the very least and try to get some of this.
My point is always this: if they're not going to do something constructive, if we're not going to end the wars, if we're not going to restore the republic, if we're not going to add to liberty, then gridlock it is.
Or does it look like we're doing constructive things? This is not constructive.
No, but you're saying the destruction that's happened that you're talking about, Billy, is that it's resulting from Trump's, asinine attempt. Well, because he's not going about it the right way. But exposing fraud in government is a good thing. Doge is a good idea.
Where's Doge?
Well, again, we have heard allegations of it. I don't know that they're not true. The allegations, I can certainly believe them. I think it's probably worse than that. Again, the Grace Commission in the 1980s, they were completely unbiased. They discovered that 33% of all government spending was from waste, fraud, or abuse then. And Reagan, Democrats and Republicans just turned their back on it and ignored it. It has to be worse than that now. There's no way since the 1980s that you wouldn't have. It's probably at least 50% waste, fraud, and abuse, I think, conservatively. So everything he said, 6,200 journalists that are on the payroll through USAID, how is that not just an extension of what we know about Operation Mockingbird? Operation Mockingbird, everybody acknowledges was a real thing. So why would it be surprising that with the controlled news we have everywhere, that there's 6,200 journalists allegedly around the world that our elite are paying to lie about everything to us? So these are great. You wouldn't think that's possible. I mean, to me, that sounds completely.
You said a couple of things. You said a couple of things there that are key, and I know it's difficult. You know, at least it's been really difficult for me, but to snap out of that. But it's like, I can believe it. There are allegations. I can believe it, and I can believe more of it. Right. And that's fine, but we need to back that up with evidence. And Doge has produced zero evidence, just about. How come if there's all this waste, fraud, and abuse, how come we're spending more money now?
Well, of course, that's the Trumpenstein project. Yeah, and that's right. But
and then when they shine the light on Doge and say, well, what exactly are you saving us? He can't produce anything, right? I think it was 150 billion. And
he claimed it. Yeah, exactly.
And the goal was, and even in those 150 billion, there were discrepancies. You know, and the goal was 1 trillion. So where is all of this?
Of course, but he was publishing.
We want to believe.
I think
but if he to back them up, why are we believing these things?
Well, he looked like
actively destroying everything.
But
why are we giving him our support?
This is the answer. This is the fact checkers' answer. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Like, you know, going back to 2020 election. I mean, they had over 1,000 sworn affidavits from people at post offices and that all unrelated to each other. It saw things that were, you know, very questionable. That's evidence. But it's always, there's no evidence. And this has been the people's, I've been studying this stuff all my life. This is always the established response. Where's the evidence? They used to say that about the JFK assassination. Where's the evidence? And Mark Lane, my mentor, used to say, we don't need new evidence. The old evidence proves what we're saying. That's the problem, is that the evidence. Elon Musk published something. I don't know what were the AI fakes. They can fake anything now. But he was putting stuff up on Twitter. This is a contract, whatever he was alleging. This is I don't know if that's real or not. Could it have been fake? I don't know what the real things look like. But I know the reflective action of the people, if this was being exposed, if the fraud was, of course what would you, especially since Trump gave this fake news stuff, now everybody uses it. If they don't like it, it's just fake news. It's fake. And so you would expect them to do that. Of course, they're not going to say, well, you caught us. You know, they caught us with their pants down. You know, sure. Ben Stiller, of course, this is ridiculous. I didn't get $2 million for slobbering over Zelensky. Would you expect them to say, well, yeah, okay, I did do that? They're never going to admit it. It's like when they asked George H.W. Bush if he was involved in the Kennedy assassination. No, I had no. So what do you expect to say? Well, yes, of course I was a conspirator. I mean, they're never going to admit anything. So this is the problem. We have everybody knows that there's corruption. Everybody awake does. And this was just the tip of the iceberg. And I think this is what Ron Paul, if Ron Paul had been president, you would have expected to see something like Doge. Because the whole idea is, well, let's audit spending and see what's going on. Where is everything going to? It was a great idea. But as soon as he did it, because of Elon Musk being associated with Trump, everybody just went crazy. And again, I don't know how many government workers have lost their jobs, just like I know how many people have been deported, because both sides have a reason to lie. Just like with immigration. The MAGA side wants to, he's cleaning house. I don't know if the Department of Education, run by Vince McMahon's wife somehow, has that been abolished yet? The MAGA acts like it has. I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know. But so this is the problem, that under Trump, because of his personality, and that's what I wrote about in my Substack, and I'm writing about it a lot, you can't tell what is really going on anywhere. Because both sides have a reason to lie. The side that hates him is never, no matter what, they're just irrational about it. And the side that loves him is irrational and just keeps saying he's playing 4D chess and he's accomplishing things that he doesn't look like he's accomplishing. So I don't know. I'm still a Trump agnostic, and I know it's the hardest thing to be because I get accused of everything. I get the Substack I just wrote. I had people jumping all over me. It's only been 3 months. Good. I guess you'd rather have Kamala in there, rather have Biden. So I catch it from both sides, and I just have to call it as I see it. I mean, we need reforms. What Trump says he wants to do most of the time is something I agree with. He just doesn't do it, or he does it the wrong way. But we desperately need these reforms. This government is corrupt from top to bottom, and somebody needs to do something about it.
Well, this is what I mean, though. You said that we'll never know the truth, and they'll never admit it. They'll never admit any of this stuff, right?
No.
So why are we expecting any different from Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge? Why are we? So if we can't trust any of these people, and we can't have them, we can't even begin to understand that they'll never admit anything, right? They're never going to admit it. They're never going to admit it. Why are we saying, oh, they're not lying to us? Oh, they're doing the right thing. It doesn't make sense. Either they're all, either we can't, they'll never admit it, or these people are in the right and they are going to admit it. Let's see the proof. And then they produce the proof. But there is no proof. They haven't produced any proof. So are they going to admit it or not? And if they're not going to admit it, which is what you stated, why are we supporting them?
Well, what would constitute proof? If those contracts that Elon Musk has put up on X are real, that's proof. Now, but again, the answer in the age of Trump is just to say it's fake. That's not real, or no evidence is good enough.
Anytime somebody would disprove something, you would just turn around and say, "Oh, it's the fact checkers. Oh, they're not going to admit it, so we're never going to get anywhere. We're never going to get anywhere." So if they are producing more proof than Elon Musk is, but if we look at the proof and say, "Oh, this is AI. Oh, this is nonsense. Oh, these are the Democratic fact checkers doing it because, they're freaking deranged and they can't," then it's just disqualifies everything. And there is it's a reality of non-reality. That's where we're sitting right now. So at that point, we make zero progress, and this is all done. The American experience. So we have to come up with parameters. We have to come up with guidelines. We have to have a line that we reach. So what is evidence then? If they produce the evidence, but it's not enough evidence for you, then what's the evidence? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't think nothing. There's not going to be enough evidence for the people. Again, you have a battle between the people. Some of the people used to be at least somewhat critical of the state, but in the age of Trump, the people who have reacted to Trumpenstein, who've reacted to him and hate him, like millions of people do. There's never going to be anything he does is going to be met with, no matter what it is. And he's done very few good things because ultimately I don't know what he actually does, but he said a lot of good things in between the craziness. But we have to, what is the standard of proof? I don't know. What was the standard of proof for Donald Trump in the courtroom when he had a woman who claimed he raped her in a crowded department dressing room? Sometime in the 1990s, she literally couldn't say the year it happened, and has her dog named Tits and paints her trees blue, and has been videotaped rolling and writhing around the floor like a complete lunatic. Yet a jury found that evidence and awarded her millions of dollars. So this is what I'm saying. The other side is completely insane. Trump is what he is. But so how is that evidence? How is when Trump was again, I'm not defending Trump, but this sets terrible precedents. Well, because that's wrong. I don't care who it is. That's how can if you could be convicted of rape?
We can sit down and go over the evidence. Come on the show.
With Eugene Carroll?
Come on next week. Come on next week and we can talk about it. We can sit there and discuss all of it.
But if you look at things like that, or in every one of his cases. And this is the exact same thing with when he was bragging about his assets or exaggerating his assets or whatever. I've been a licensed realtor since 1985. I've never known anybody that didn't think their home was worth more than it is. So, I mean, that's not a crime. And nobody was frauded. The people he was alleged to have defrauded testified for him. They said, no, we're cool with it. We're fine. We support him. And yet they still convicted him. You can't have a legal system like that that's built on emotion. So that's what I'm saying is with these people, that say there's no evidence when Elon Musk is putting contracts up on X and saying things that a lot of us can easily believe because we know how corrupt and how fraudulent government is, going back to the 80s with the Grace Commission. That's not evidence. But E. Jean Carroll, absolute lunatic, who can't even produce the year she was allegedly raped, that's evidence? So what is the standard of evidence?
It sounds like there's a hard bias here, with all due respect. Let's get Tony in here. And then we can move on. We're gonna have to get out of here. Actually, I'll stay for a little while longer. There's a couple of things I want to hit. But the guys can leave if they want to. What's up, Tony?
Yeah, man, there's just a lot here. I mean, Don's right about the reforms that have to take place. If you want the country to survive, if you want the rule of law to prevail, I mean, a lot of what Trump says is on point. The problem is it doesn't get executed that way, or it drifts into the realm of things like you're talking about, where we have this, this warning shot of a lurch towards a technocratic fascism or something like that under the color of law. I agree with that. But something has to be done. It's fun. Like the country doesn't have the stomach for a lot of things that would be required to keep the government alive. I mean, you'd have to do massive audits. What was it? Simpson Bowles, that commission, Don, you talked about the one from the 80s, another one in the early 2000s. And I remember this, because I'm even as a young soldier, I was paying attention to politics, and they came up with the conclusion. This was a bipartisan commission. Like, you have to, the reforms that they set out, and these were senators, and they're like, you have to do this massive cuts, these massive reforms, or the entire thing implodes. And that's why we're at almost to 130% of debt to GDP, to gross domestic product, because we don't have, whatever your problems with anybody's problem with Doge is I kind of thought it was a joke, and then it's half-hearted. RB Ham put in the chat, he said something that was said, if they don't audit the Pentagon first, they're not serious. Well, obviously they weren't, and then it's gone. So I don't put stock in any of it. A lot of that stuff I just thought was window dressing. Like I said, if you know anything about the cycle of politics, I think that this is a short-lived window. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the Trump administration right now. I wouldn't want a job in it. I mean, for what's coming, like you talking about the midterms in 2026 with the economy on the brink, one false move and we're in a sweep of, it'll be the pendulum will swing back. And I think that's where we are. So
they're prepping for it. Steve Bannon believes exactly what you're saying. They're prepping for 2026. They're actively looking at ways to war game what's going to happen if the Democrats take over and they try to impeach him. They're openly saying this now because they feel that unless this is like, I don't know, they legit feel that the Democrats could take over in 2026, given everything that's going down. And they're openly talking about it on Steve Bannon's War Room. So they feel as you do. They see it happening. At this point, we need to discuss whether they're doing it on purpose or they're just completely inadequate. I don't know which is which, but they feel as you do, Tony. So I think you're right.
I don't know if they feel like I do, because I don't support their movement because it doesn't execute.
No. You don't need to support their movement to agree on a point. They agree as you do that in 2026 it might be a problem, and that they're going to try to impeach him. So I'm not saying you're supporting their movement. No, I agree with Steve Bannon sometimes, and I loathe the guy. I agree with Donald Trump when he said, under the one thing, I was talking to my sister, I was like, one thing out of this that's fine is that, even though things are happening with injections, there seems to be a responsibility that's held on the person. The person gets to choose. It's not being forced upon people, which is good, in my opinion. It shouldn't be forced upon people. People should want to buy into it. And if you do, go right ahead, but it should be your choice. And that's something out of this administration that I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I don't agree with them 99.9% of shit, so it is what it is. Like, but that's what they're saying. They're saying that come the midterms, there is a problem, especially if things keep going the way they are. And in a couple of months, it might really look bad depending on what goes down due to Trump's tariff wars. Tony, close it out, buddy. Say what's up.
Well, I just want to. Twisted Pistols had some good comments on the YouTube today. He keeps mentioning that I'm daydreaming about doing deadlifts, and I'm thinking about Mike Menzer winning the night.
He's saying some great stuff about me too. Spelling both of my names wrong too, by the way.
You're Donnell. You're Donnell.
Donnell Jefferies. Yeah.
Jefferies. Well, always a good discussion, guys, and I think we just kind of take this day by day. There's a lot to process right now, and I'm watching the macro. There's a lot of stuff going out. You step outside the borders of the United States, outside of CONUS, there's a ton of stuff happening right now. The world's reshifting. There's a new economic world order. As like Joe Biden would say, there's a new world order out there. So I'm watching that real close, and we'll see.
And the New World Order, if it continues this way, Trump's New World Order is very different from the actual New World Order that we might get as a result of Trump's New World Order. There are several New World Orders in play here. Which one are we going to be sucked in by? Unfortunately, that's what we're looking at. Listen, I'm going to stay on for at least 15 or 20 more minutes. Tony, tell the people where they can find you.
You can go to tony.gold. I just shortened the website. It's arterburn.gold, but you can go to tony.gold too and find me there. I've got my website, my links to all my stuff. You can buy, sell gold, silver, Bitcoin, all of that. Support the podcast. And you can support the latest Paratruther, which is myself and Mr. Anderson and Donald Jeffries talking about the American Memory Hole. Great show.
Fantastic. Excellent. Don Jeffries, the legendary. Tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, again, the only place I'm not being shouted banned is Substack. Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. I protest, just like my podcast. Latest book is American Memory Hole, as Tony noted, and again, I guess we just have to, we have to have these discussions, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not very optimistic, but I've watched a lot of Frank Capra movies, so I still always maintain some hope.
Well, good. We need the hope. Love both of you guys. Thank you for staying here and doing the show. I'm going to stay on. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to show some footage, and then I'm going to get out of here. All right, boys.
Okay.
Be good.
All right. Take care. See you later.
So Piper in the chat. This is an excellent question. It's an excellent question. And to be honest, I don't have an answer. This is what I find myself contemplating for years now. You're trying to figure out, like, if no one's telling the truth, I think there is truth out there. I think there are honest brokers out there that have our best interest at heart, but we've been manipulated and mind controlled by these people. This is the extent of my conspiratorial thinking at this point. I think we've all been mind controlled, but me included. I'm right there with you. Like, I've been mind controlled, and we have been shuffled into different sections, and those bubbles that we build is the information that we get, we suck in, and we believe, and we're manipulated in that fashion. And sometimes there are glitches in the matrix that allow us to slip out of that manipulation, to slip out of the mind control, and maybe it just funnels you into a different bubble, but you're not in the bubble where you used to be before, which is what I think is happening to me. I'm not arrogant enough to say that I'm not, that I'm completely out of the bubbles, but I know that something's happened where I've shifted. And maybe I'm just in another mind control bubble at this point. But we need evidence for things, right? We need evidence for things. That is the basis of science. It's the basis of arguments. We argue on the premise of evidence. If we are going to be effective conspiracy theorists, right? When we want to argue about 9/11, you have to come with facts. Otherwise, you're going to get destroyed. And those facts are backed up by evidence, right? have to have evidence that Building 7 fell without any planes hitting it, right? You have to have evidence that this hasn't happened before, that they're the only 3 steel buildings to fall down in one day, due to fires, right? You have to have that type of evidence. And you have to be open to other people coming with different evidence to shut you down. And that's happened to me several times. And I'm like, damn, I was wrong about that, wasn't I? And then you grow that way. You grow that way. But to read the comment, it says, BRV, if nobody is telling the truth, especially the left, now there is evidence of some type of bias, right? What is your answer? Now, I think the majority, and I've argued with this with Brissom for some time, and Brissom does not hold my belief, but he does support some of the things that I say as a result of it, because he knows that I'm not lying about it, and he's told me about a lot of this stuff. But I believe the majority of conspiracy culture comes out of the right. And we've been manipulated to believe that is conservatism in a way. I considered myself a conservative for the majority of my life. And I didn't know what the hell conservatism was, because I was in this conspiratorial bubble. And I would argue that a lot of people that are down with MAGA right now, they call themselves conservatives, but they have no idea what conservatism is. You can't call yourself MAGA and then being conservative at the same time, in my opinion. But what's my answer? Like, I don't know. If I had the solution to it, I'd be making a ton of money somewhere, Piper. I have no idea. And I'm open and honest about that because it's the truth, right? For me, I don't know what the answer is. And that's why I'm so afraid, because we are the target audience for the controllers. Is starting in 2016, and maybe before that, but that's what I can pinpoint. 2017, we became the target audience for the controllers, the culture creators, when they harvested all these bits of information from Facebook and social media. They went after us, the conspiracy theorists and the Christians. That's who they went after. And it was a recruitment strategy, a recruitment campaign online. We didn't know we were being recruited for something, but we absolutely were. And they put out dummy accounts, or bots or whatever would represent what they were trying to get out of us. And they already knew what would make us tick, what carrot we would follow, what piece of cheese we would try to find in the maze. They already knew that. So they presented it to us, right? And we followed it, with things like QAnon, and of course, the election of Donald Trump via Cambridge Analytica, which I go back to often. Michael Flynn intimately involved in that, which might be our new national security advisor. And that's why I harbor such resentment and anger towards these people, because I see the manipulation, and I'm like, my God, I don't know how to get us out of it. I have no idea. I'm just trying to jump up and down, right, and say, hey, the house is burning. The house is burning, because I can see the house burning. I don't have the equipment to turn it off. To be done with the fire. I need your help, and I'm trying to say, like, help me. Pick up some buckets of water and help me, please. Or maybe a better way. But as far as what's the answer to, that's how we ended up here in the first place. Nobody believes anything, and that's part of the control. It's part of the mind control that no one believes anything anymore, and that's when we're most susceptible to the manipulation, because we don't believe anything, right? Or at least anything outside of our bubble, because depending on what bubble we're in, we tend to believe that, and all the information is specifically honed for that purpose, for you to to reinforce your beliefs, to continue to reinforce your beliefs, whether it's legit evidence or not. Right? You continue to believe it and continue to believe it and continue to believe it. And the people around you also believe it. And they reinforce why you should believe it and how you're not crazy and everyone else is. And that's also happening in bubbles on the left and bubbles in the middle. It's just happening. It continues to happen. Right? So we sit there and like, what's right? So is this mass shooting that happened in whatever town at whatever time, is it correct? Is it real or is it a false flag? Alex Jones had a lot to do with popularizing that frame of thinking. Is it real? I don't believe anything. I don't believe it. You know, I mean, I'm talking about people. I'm not talking about me. Even at my highest, I was skeptical to buy in completely, but I would listen. And I still want to hold that part of me that listens, you know, to these things, because you can't shut off that part of you, because these people at the bottom line cannot be trusted. There's historical evidence as to why they can't be trusted. You know, Tuskegee and the experiments that they ran on Central Americans with vaccines back in the day. You know, there's more than that, of course. You know, planning what is it? To unleash substances in the subway to see how people would react, you know, all that sort of stuff without our consent, you know. So there is a reason why we feel the way we feel and why we act the way we act. There is a reason for it, but our energy and how we attack that reason is being manipulated and steered, you know. And even the reasons that are laid out are put there for us to buy into, to a degree, you know. So there's that. I know that doesn't answer the question, Piper, but it's the best I can do. I don't know. I don't know. Don won't believe any of the fact checkers. He just won't believe it, right? He'll believe Elon Musk though, without producing any evidence, because he is inclined to believe it. Right. I was the same way. I'm still the same way on some things, and I'm trying not to be. And it's a very difficult thing to do. I'm just trying. I can't claim to have this mastered. Right. Everybody has biases. Everybody wants to believe what they want to believe. That's why that poster of the X-Files, when I saw that back in the day, it says, I want to believe. It's so impactful. I want to believe. It was, if you haven't seen, I'll look it up and put it up here for those of you that haven't seen it, but I'm assuming that most of you have, because we're all to a degree conspiracy theorists at least. And we had the X-Files poster with a UFO on it. I forgot the guy that was credited for taking that picture. I interviewed a guy associated to him once. I forget their names. Damn it, I forget that guy's name, man. Anyway, and so it had a UFO and it says, I want to believe. Not I do believe, not I have evidence for. It says, I want to believe. And that is the key. And Don specifically said that. I want to believe more. I can believe more. He wants to believe it. Don is a very, very accomplished guy. He's done so much, right? Very smart guy, very knowledgeable dude. I don't want to act like I'm not acknowledging that. I love Don. I've been working with Don for like 7 years now. We started America Unplugged back in the iconic days, and he was the first person I called. You know, I used to do shows with Don on Truth Frequency Radio, but I called him up and I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to be on Iconic. It's David Icke's network, man. I'm doing this show. I'll do it alone, but I'd much rather do it with you. You know, and he came on and we've been doing it ever since. You know, and I've shifted. I've gone in different directions as a result of the years. And that's why there is an argument to be had. But ultimately, I want to learn from Don, especially if I'm wrong. I want to learn. Right. I want to learn from Tony if I'm wrong. I want to learn from John if I'm wrong. And I've taken from all of these people, you know, to mold my worldview. So that's the best I can give you, Piper. We got problems because nobody believes anything anymore. Nobody believes anything anymore, or they just believe what they want to believe. That's a better way of putting it. It's not that they don't believe anything. They believe what they want to believe in spite of the evidence. They believe what they want to believe. And that's true for all of us, including me. So I don't know. It's above my pay grade at this point in time. Maybe tomorrow I'll have an answer for you. But right now I definitely don't. But thank you. Thank you for that. That's a very impactful question. It's a very, very legit question to ask. Hold on for a second. Karen Carpenter in the chat. I'm going to shout out everybody in the chat. Let me pull up this article that I wanted to show you guys about what the Trump administration is planning on doing. So we can go back and forth on what they're actually doing, right? And how many immigrants are being deported and how many of those immigrants are actually criminals, right? And then I think it was Chris Buchan in the chat, even the definition of criminal gets thrown into the mix because it's a Stephen Miller type tactic. Oh, well, if you are in the United States illegally, you're a criminal. But that wasn't the criminal that Donald Trump was talking about when he was running for office. And we can pull up those clips, and we probably will tomorrow night, Lord willing. I know last week we were supposed to go on. I made a mistake. We went on somewhere else. So sorry for anybody that was there and looking and wondering why. Yeah, that was me clicking the wrong freaking button. My apologies. And as soon as I found out, I had to cut it off. So I did. But people were very, very, very understanding, and I appreciate them. Mr. David Knight. I appreciate you, sir. Okay. Military contractors pitch unprecedented prison plan for detained immigrants. And now here in the fine print, Eric Prince. We remember that guy. Do you remember that name? That name is instrumental in what is going on and what has gone on in black sites throughout the United States for some time, and even involved in some of the Hunter Biden. Was it Hunter Biden or was it Anthony Weiner? John Brissom, if you're listening, please correct me. I think it was Anthony Weiner's laptop. Eric Prince had a lot to do with that narrative being pushed out there. If I am wrong, John Brissom, please correct me, but I think it was Anthony Weiner's laptop. It was definitely one of them, but I'm leaning towards Anthony Weiner. This guy is trouble. He is bad news. He wants to cut a deal to transport detainees from the U.S. to El Salvador, right? Let's read a little bit. Former Blackwater CEO Eric Prince, because Blackwater isn't a thing anymore, but he's still doing his thing. He has side projects and other things that he wants to pitch to the United States government, just like this one. And a team of defense contractors are pitching the White House on a plan to vastly expand deportations to El Salvador. Here we go. I got from one of my MAGA friends, and I do have MAGA friends. I have several that I hold dear, that I love very much. And as a result, I put up with the MAGA-ness. It's really hard, but I do. I put up with it. Same way they must put up with me, right? Oh my God, Billy is deranged. He hates MAGA, right? So it's a two-way street. They put up with me. I put up with them. I love you guys. Thank you. Okay. So White House on a plan to vastly expand deportations to El Salvador, transporting thousands of immigrants from U.S. holding facilities to a sprawling maximum security prison in Central America. Now, we already know what that is. That's CCOT, right? And they have more. And Trump was in the Oval Office with Nayib Bukele saying, build me 5 more because we're going to send the homegrowns out there. So we warned here on America Unplugged that it was going to go in that direction. We warned that American citizens were going to be deported from the United States. We warned that. And it was dismissed as, deranged, unhinged analysis. But here we are, where they're actively, they've already done it several times over. And we'll get into Kilmore Garcia's case in just a little bit. But they've already done it several times over. And they're doing it to children, little freaking kids. One of them with cancer, probably more. right? This is just what's hitting the mainstream. All right. And we can choose to believe that or not. I know I've seen things, but whatever. Let's move forward. The proposal exclusively obtained by Politico, and this came out a while ago. This is not new. Where is this? Oh, wow. This says it must have been updated, right? 4/11. What the? Must have been updated in April. And maybe I've lost complete track of time, guys. So I don't know what's going on anymore. I have to be reminded what day it is. Anyway, says it would target criminal illegal aliens. Now, this is the key. Let's highlight that. Criminal illegal aliens, and would attempt to avoid legal challenges by designating parts of the prison which has drawn accusations of violence, overcrowding, and from human rights groups as American territory. Now, CCOT has been under attack from human rights groups before the Trump administration made them famous. Okay. Nayib Bukele cleaned up El Salvador. And this is another thing that we spoke about on America Unplugged long before he became prominent, because it's a perfect example of how people will buy into tyranny and want to be a part of tyranny because they want to be secure, right? You give up your freedoms for security. Somebody said that you deserve none if you do that. And we used to quote that all the time in the 9/11 Truth movement. But now it seems that a lot of MAGA is willing to go along with tyranny. And not even for security, because they're not secure. They're just willing to go along with it because they want to own the libs. I don't understand that mentality, but they've been under human rights investigations for some time. MS-13 was running wild in El Salvador. People were not safe. It was a very, very dangerous country. And what Nayib Bukele did in order to gain power and completely override the Constitution of El Salvador and become a dictator. Admittedly, he says he is a dictator. So in order to be able to do that, he used that crisis and said, well, we're going to lock up everybody. So they built that prison, and they locked up everyone. No due process, no nothing. You had a tattoo, you're going in there. And as a result, the country is super safe. But also, tons of innocent people are in CCOT right now, and their families don't have any contact to them. There are some families that, since their loved ones were removed, they have no contact at all. They have no idea where they are, and nothing. They're essentially dead people. That's why they call this place a black hole. And CCOT is the one that has the light shined on it, but there are several other prisons in El Salvador that are just as crowded and just as hellholes, right? They're equally hellholes as CCOT. CCOT is just bigger. All the Trump administration people, Matt Gaetz went down there, Naomi, our favorite, went down there and took some pictures. So that's the one that we talk about often. But anyway, criminal illegal aliens. And a lot of MAGA or supporters of this policy will say, well, it's criminal illegal aliens. Now, we know that that's not true. If you're listening to the sound of my voice at this point, you know that that's not true. You know that that's not the case. It is not exclusive to criminal illegal aliens. It goes way further than that. And they go get illegal immigrants that have done nothing wrong with no criminal records, illegal aliens that are working and producing in society. But let's take it a step further, because you can still make the argument, well, these illegal immigrants want to go, and they need to go. And that's a separate discussion altogether as to why you think that's the case. And I'm not going to get into it right now. Maybe on one of my shows, we'll do it. On a Sunday, we can sit there and honestly discuss why we want these people out. But it's extended over to American citizens, to people born in this country. No one is safe. Some of us are in more danger than others, but no one is safe at this point. And this needs to be stopped. But here's Eric Prince. This is what they're planning on doing, to have mass deportations at once, and they would have mass hearings. This is why they need something like the Alien Enemies Act to be able to justify what they're planning on doing. So they have thousands of people in a room, you know, and a judge comes over and presides over all of it, and they all got to go, and they're gone. And then they go to CCOT, and a section of that prison would be under American jurisdiction, which I don't even know the legalities of that. And therefore, the United States could do whatever the hell they want over there. Insanity. This is where we are. So we can continue to make the argument that, well, he's not deporting people like Barack Obama did, which at this point is true, you know, but what is he planning on doing? What are they planning on doing? And just because they don't get it done doesn't absolve them. I hope. I was talking to Twisted the other day, and we're like, find ourselves cheering for the Federal Reserve. I didn't think I would ever say something like that, but given what's coming, it's like, wait a minute, pump the brakes here. Let's keep it where it's at right now, and we can deal with that situation rather than the full technocratic takeover that is imminent, or it has already happened to a degree, but it's more. Anybody that thinks that we talk about the tariff policy, and what's going on, and you know, that jobs are going to come back to the United States. What jobs are coming back to the United States? What jobs? Do you know who's in charge? We are all smart enough to see through this, right? It's Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. They were instrumental in getting Trump elected. J.D. Vance is only the vice president of the United States because of Peter Thiel. No other reason. These are technocrats. So what jobs, what manufacturing jobs are coming back to the United States that aren't going to be automated? So we might have jobs coming back to the United States, but not for you, silly rabbit. Not for you. Not for you that lives paycheck to paycheck. Not for the middle class that has a business that they've worked so hard to build up, you know, and they've invested in it, and it is what sustains their family, and they would probably hand it down to their kids. Not for you. You guys are going to be gone. Not for you. It's for the machine. It's for the AI. That's what the jobs are for. Vast majority of them. We could play scale here and say, well, my friend Hector, you know, he got a job at the new whatever company, you know. And I also heard the argument, well, you need somebody to build the robots. Well, that's until the robots start building the robots, and that's already possible. You know, so they're going to phase you out. The future does not need you. It doesn't need you unless you make the future need you. And we have to make the future need us by eliminating people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel from our government. And we do that peacefully, by the way. But that's what we need to do. And that's why I'm so, you know, skeptical about all of this stuff. But it's common sense, right? It's common sense, I think, anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Marjorie Taylor Greene is up here. She was talking some nonsense. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow night with John Brissom. I think Oddman is supposed to join us tomorrow night. I will try not to make a mistake and hit the wrong button. We will be streaming on Tony's X. God bless everybody. God bless you guys. We're not done. I'm going to keep going for a little while longer. And maybe we'll touch on some of this tomorrow night also, but I want to make sure we do it just in case something happens tomorrow. Let's get this. Let's get this here. I think this is, what is this? All right. This is Let Them Eat Cake. This is Maria Antoinette. Let's listen to this real quick, and then we'll start analyzing it.
What is your speech to President Xi of China? That'll happen. I mean, look, right now, and I told you before, they're having tremendous difficulty because their factories are not doing business. They made $1 trillion with Biden, $1 trillion, even $1.1 trillion with Biden selling us stuff. Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, "Oh, the shelves are going to be open." Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30. You know, and maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But
the arrogance on this guy. And you're going to hit me with why do you have Trump derangement syndrome? The arrogance on this guy to say something like that. Do you guys want to hear it again? I think it was enough. He says, you know, hey, well, you know, kids, they don't need so much. They don't need so many toys. Well, maybe they'll have 2 instead of 30. And maybe those 2 will cost a couple bucks more. Screw you, bro. You're a billionaire. He's never had to struggle for a thing ever in his life. He didn't get these billions on his own either. His father got him started. And then you're telling me that I have to cut down on my way of life because you decided to tank the freaking economy and you decided to start a trade war with China. I'm sorry, but we would not be here if Kamala Harris was in power. We'd be having a whole load of different arguments with her, you know, and I think we would have stood a chance at pushing back. But now we have to think about what we're going to buy for Christmas and if it's going to be on the shelves in the freaking first place. It's incredible. And he sits there and tells you, let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. It's essentially what he's doing. The arrogance on this guy. And yet, people follow him blindly, especially the Christians. I don't understand. They should be able to see right through the arrogance. This is not something that Jesus Christ would preach, but they go right along with it. And they just say, well, this is too much for us. You know, we don't need all of those toys. We don't need all of those gadgets. We don't need the televisions. These aren't things we need. So why not go through some pain? Because it's going to get better, right? It's going to get better. Who is it going to get better for? Who is it going to get better for? How many of these people, especially in the middle class, which with businesses that are on the brink, right? Or even successful ones, how many of them are going to be able to survive what's coming if this keeps up? How many of them? This is us, guys. This is us. We are the middle and working class. Unless I got some billionaires listening. You know, but it's us. We need to start taking us into account, ourselves and as a group, and say, well, this doesn't benefit us, does it? We need to fall back on this. Let me show you a couple of other things. This is interesting. This is very interesting. Look at your boy Donald Trump. This is the White House account. On X, he's retweeting himself as the Pope. He said he wanted to be the Pope. He said he would be a great Pope. He's probably, making a joke about it. But how? Let me put it back up. But how? We can't let him slide with this sort of stuff because this is what we said about everything else, and everything else seems to be his actual policy. He legit wants to take over Canada. He legit wants to take over Greenland, right? These aren't jokes. He legit wants to run for a 3rd term or stay in power. That's not a joke. And this is why I say that we are in the biggest, right now, as it stands, it's the biggest chance that we've had in the last, 4 decades of actual martial law. And for those of you that say that I got a little pushback from that on America Unplugged. Well, we've been waiting for martial law for quite some time. Let's remember COVID. That was soft martial law, but it was martial law nonetheless. And who did it come under? Who made it happen? It was Mr. Donald Trump. So when he wants to stay for a 3rd term, we cannot rule out the possibility of enacting martial law for him to stay in power. So I know the Pope thing is a stretch. Right. But I mean, and this is kind of why people relate to him, because he's funny. Donald Trump is hilarious. This is a funny ass picture. Right. But it does not come without some basis in reality. Again, Steve Bannon, Jack Posobiec, and a plethora of others are pushing to have a MAGA pope, to have MAGA take over the Vatican. This is a thing, and they're actively pursuing that. So keep that in mind when we say it's a joke. We can't have these people joking about these things. We need to hold them accountable at all cost. There are some things you just can't do at the workplace. We should know that because we are typically employed by somebody, so we know there's some things you just can't do. We are the employers here. We are the ones that these people are supposed to serve. They are public servants. We need to hold them accountable whenever they say some off the wall crazy shit, right? We need to say, hey, you can't say that. You can't say that, even if they're joking, because then it turns into a situation like, we're going to run for a third term. Yeah. Oh, Project 2025 isn't a thing, but it kind of is, but not kind of, it is. Oh, it's a joke. It's crazy. It's crazy. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke, guys. These people are for real. All right. And I want to hit one more thing for sure. And maybe we'll save the rest of things for our show tomorrow night. We will be live on Ground Zero Plus. So go over there, sign up. There's a chat there. There's tons of shows over there too. Clyde Lewis and Ron Patton, shouts to them. America Unplugged, I'm going to make a pitch so we can start doing America Unplugged out of there. So maybe that's a thing. But I want to show you this one thing. Also on Tony's X, we'll be live. We'll be live here tomorrow night with John Brissom, Lord willing, and the Odd Man. And let me show you one more thing before we get out of here. All right. I'm sure you've seen this. And if you haven't, get ready. And we'll talk a little bit about it.
A major trial for every person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. So
here we go. For those, again, it's important. Words are important. What he's saying is very, very important. Listen to the way he's describing the illegal immigrants that are here. Let's rewind that.
Trial for every person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country. Right. So we have to get them out.
This is the rationale that they are using to deport people to El Salvador. This is why we need to hold these people accountable. Are there illegal immigrants that do this? Absolutely. And they shouldn't be in the country. And they should receive their right to due process, just like every human on earth should have. If there are allegations against you, no matter how blatant they are, no matter how evident it is, evidence needs to be produced. And you should have the right to speak to those charges. And once that is produced and it comes out that you are guilty, then we'll send you off to your country of origin, not just El Salvador or a gulag. No, we'll send you back to your country where your government is responsible for what you've done, right? But how about innocent people? And now we're talking about, right, the semantics of the word criminal. You're a criminal for coming over. It's a misdemeanor, for one, if you're here illegally, and it doesn't justify the punishment of getting sent to CCOT. Okay, so this is who Donald Trump is talking about sometimes, because he's a pathological liar. But let's rewind it again, and then we'll listen to the rest of the clip.
Illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country. Right. So we have to get them out. And we have to get them out fast. Really bad.
Hate, division, and this is the psychological operation that they use. Admittedly, Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon have admitted this to a degree.
Fast. Really bad guys, but in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal.
That's wrong. Totally wrong. If there is a different standard for people that come in here illegally, there is a different standard for every American. It's a slippery slope. Every American. He's already talking about deporting actual Americans. So we can't let this slide. Plus, he is totally wrong. Everybody is entitled to due process under American law.
They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process where we have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
Oh, you had some tattoos.
He has no idea. Oh my God. Zero idea of what is going on. I don't think he knows how tariffs work. I don't think he knows. He certainly doesn't know what immigration policy is. He just sits there and people feed him stuff. He is the ultimate example of somebody in a bubble. This guy is in such a bubble, and the people around him that are super smart but hateful have figured out a way to manipulate this dude, bro. And he will do whatever, to the point that Stephen Miller is going to be our national security advisor if these reports are right. Good Lord. Good Lord. But Donald Trump is just relying on other people to tell him stuff. And that's true for a lot of people in this position to a degree anyway. But Donald is really pushing the boundaries here. All right, let's finish this.
Whatever my lawyers say.
Oh, you had some tattoos that are interpreted that way.
Here we're talking about Kilmar and the tattoos. So Kilmar Garcia is the gentleman that was deported to CCOT, and that people claim that he is MS-13. There is no evidence to prove that, to flesh that out. Regardless of that, it doesn't matter. Whether he is MS-13 or not, he should have received due process. It should have been proven in a court of law. And if he was MS-13, I don't think anyone listening to this right now, including me, would be opposed to him being out of this country, right? If he is a criminal of the degree that Donald Trump is saying, get out of here, right? You shouldn't be here, right? But that was never proven. Still hasn't been proven. He's being totally defiant about bringing him back, even though the Supreme Court said he needed to be brought back. And then Stephen Miller steps in with the semantics again, which is what this administration does. They twist laws. They twist words to fit whatever they want in order to get their way. And if you want to believe it, you're going to. And that's all they want. That's all they need.
Interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute.
Tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on. Wait. About the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lawyers say.
Oh, you had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
You did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was photoshopped. So let me
That was photoshopped, Terry.
I love the way Terry says that was photoshopped. It's so dismissive. It's like, dude, that was photoshopped. Terry Moran, I think this guy's name is, gets all the props in the world. Thank you for the pushback. This is how an interview should be conducted. I would have given him a harder pushback, but you have to walk that line over here because Donald Trump would just get up and leave. He's not going to answer these questions, if you push even harder. He had a bit of a meltdown here. Let's go back and then we'll play it straight through unless I hear something that I need to stop.
MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was photoshopped. So let me
That was photoshopped, Terry. You can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's.
This is classic Donald Trump. This is why I thought that he would never get elected, because I didn't think the American people would go along with this in any way. He goes, yeah, I picked you. You're getting the break of a lifetime being able to interview me. I picked you to do this. Show me your loyalty, is what he's saying. Why are you pushing back? I picked you to do this. And then he goes, frankly, I've never heard of you. So how can you pick someone that you've never heard of? This guy is a walking contradiction. But seems to be okay with a lot of people. I don't know. All right, let's finish this.
But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice.
I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. You're not being very nice. I picked you. Yeah, man. The hand, the tattoos on the hand were clearly photoshopped. We'll show them tomorrow night if you guys want. And there are pictures of Kilmar in El Salvador that don't have the markings that Donald Trump claims that are there, and that it's literal MS13. Somebody put them over Kilmar's knuckles because Kilmar has tattoos on his knuckles. I know he has a marijuana leaf that they interpreted as an M. He had a smiley face that they interpreted as an S. Then he had a cross that they interpreted as a 1. And the last thing on the last tattoo on his last knuckle was a skull, which for some reason they interpreted as a 3. Even a lot of MS-13 experts, and we'll try to get some on. This is very difficult, given what we've done here. What we're from the conspiratorial rights. It would be very difficult to get some of these people on, but we're going to try. MS-13 experts say, I don't know what that is. I've never seen that interpreted as MS-13. But what they did was they put the MS-13 number right above each symbol that Kilmar had tattooed on his knuckles and said, here is the interpretation that we're putting forth. These symbols, the marijuana, the cross, the skull, the smiley face, they mean MS-13. So that was the argument that was being made. Trump thinks that the MS-13 that was put over the actual tattoos are real tattoos. So what we need to think about here is Trump just lying, right? Or does he really believe it? And this is where it gets really shaky. I think Donald Trump really believes this. I think he really believes. I mean, it just kept going after the end of the clip that we just showed. I think I'll try to find the full clip. But I mean, he was like, nope. It is MS-13. He's like, I'll show you the picture. It says MS-13. That's just not the case. So if Donald Trump is just lying, that's very problematic on its own. That's something Stephen Miller would do. Stephen Miller will outright lie to you, even though he knows the truth. I believe Donald Trump really thinks this is the truth, which presents a different set of problems altogether. For him to buy into something that is so easily disproven and believe it is a fact, it shows real lack of judgment for one, but we need to start talking about his cognitive decline here. He has exhibited a lot of it throughout the campaign, in my opinion, and now it's just rolling. It's in a totally different way than Joe Biden. Joe Biden was exhibiting some clear signs of decline, right? And nobody liked Joe Biden anyway, so so it was, people were more open to go along with it, and that, I mean, after that debate where he just fell apart, it was impossible, right? Unless you wanted to believe otherwise, it was impossible to keep saying that Joe Biden wasn't on the decline. He clearly was. I mean, he's able to operate under certain circumstances, but that means decline, right? You should be able, especially if you're going to be the president of the United States, you should be able to operate under every circumstance. And Joe Biden clearly could not do that, right? If you sit him down and have an interview with him, he'll be okay. He's done it many times after that debate, but during that debate, he was exposed. He completely fell apart. I think a lot of things are coming to bear here with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is diagnosed by several doctors, not directly, of course, but through public observations of him. I told you that they wrote a book. It was 27 doctors. He is a malignant narcissist. You don't need to be a doctor to see it, right? So that's been going on for quite some time, but now it's like he's the mad king. He is a madman. And for him to believe something like that and double and triple down, doesn't want to let it go because he wants to be right. It's very problematic for the American people and for the office of the presidency. I hope he doesn't lead us off a freaking bridge. I mean, he's leading us off a bridge right now, but somebody needs to stop him, right? Scott Bessent kind of stepped in for some of these tariffs and was like, listen, dude, and I'm no fan of Scott Bessent, but he was like, listen, guy, this isn't working out, Donald. If you continue to do this, there's going to be problems. Like people from industry stepped in and had a conversation with Donald and said, if you keep this up, there will be nothing on shelves, and that made Donald peel it back a little bit. And we need more of that. More people within the administration to step in and bring them back publicly, right? Don't publicly shame this guy, because that'll automatically set things off, and it won't be a good thing. He won't take you seriously because he'll see that as disloyalty. So pull him to the side, and say, hey, Donald, I love your hair. You look great. You're doing an incredible job for our country. Thank you so much for getting rid of the waste, the fraud, and abuse, and making us great again, and holding these other countries accountable. We might want to do a couple of things differently just to make sure that you look even better at the end of this, that you're really you're going to solve these problems at an optimal level. You're already solving them, Donald, but what we need you to do is, somebody needs to step in and do it. That is my son. We can see you. I can see you. That was weird, first of all. Okay, really weird. And there he goes again. Incredible. You are not invisible. He thinks he's invisible sometimes. He tells me, you can't see me. I don't know why he does that. Yes, you did. Anyway, I'm on a worldwide broadcast right now. Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, I love him. We're going to go watch a movie tonight or something. But yeah, that is the problem here. That's where we're going. We need to hold them accountable. We need somebody in the back to bring him in and say, listen, fall back. Otherwise, he's going to take us over a ditch, and we're all going to suffer. MAGA or not, we're all in this together. We're in different bubbles, of course, but we're all under the same bubble. Big bubble with a lot of different bubbles within that big bubble. And that big bubble is going overboard. We're all going to suffer. Each and every one of us. At this point, we need to take what we can get. And if somebody back there, if Scott Bessent is the guy with common sense, then so be it. I don't know. Somebody tell him something. But this doesn't look good. He's only going to get worse as the years progress. He's not going to want to leave office in 2028. Whether he runs again or not, he's not going to want to leave. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be so wrong about this, but he's not going to want to leave. Anyway, let me look at the chat, and then we're getting up out of here. Who's here? Shoni. What's up, Shoni? Why would he want to deport Americans? I don't know, Shoni. He's doing it. I don't know. It's what constitutes an American. Hold on for a second. What constitutes an American? Is your phone charged? Make sure it's fully charged. All right. What constitutes an American? That's the entire thing. Let me put that up there for you. Why he wants to do it, I don't know. I mean, I have thoughts, but do I know? I have no idea, Shawnee. But he's doing it. There are already American citizens being deported under this regime. So there's that. How you doing, Shawnee? What's going on? Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying that right. I butcher names left and right. Ron Helton, what's up, Ron? How you doing? Yeah, most Catholics are not amused by his post. Yeah, I see that. They don't want him to be the Pope. So, Helen, What's going on, Helen Rundell? The guy you hate. No, hold on. I lost it. The guy you hate. Let me see what you're saying. The guy you hate has nothing in his name. That's why he is in power. I don't know what that means. Tell me what that means. I want to know about that. I want to know what that is. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Thomas is in the chat. What's up, Tom? How you doing? Miss Karen Carpenter, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Make sure you guys tune in tonight to The Storm in a couple of minutes. I'm getting the hell out of here. Jason, what's up, Jay? How you doing? Liz, the Iron Maiden. I don't know if she's still here. How you doing, Liz? Always appreciate you. Thank you. Hope and Despair is here. We've all experienced those in the past and probably later on. Jason T. Barrett, Jackson T. Barrett is here. How are you? I don't think he agrees with me very much, but thank you for being here. We appreciate you. There's way more, man. I should have done this a lot earlier. I think Guard Goldsmith was in the chat. What's up, Guard? What is truth? Mr. Wheezy, what's going on, sir? Twisted, what's going on, my guy? How are you doing? I got to talk to Twisted this weekend for the first time ever. I thought that was very cool. Or this week, I thought it was very cool. Let me see. Piper, who gave me that awesome question. No one believes anything anymore. That is by design. I think you're right, Piper. Unfortunately, man, and that's very scary. I think it's by design. Maybe that's me being conspiratorial, but I think we have some evidence to flesh that out. Thank you, Piper, for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for the question. What else do we have? Got everyone. Well, we didn't get everybody, but it's a lot of repetitiveness going on right now, and I need to get off the air for my guys at Knights of the Storm, my guys and gals, because Jason Barker has given the show a facelift. What's up, Angry Tiger? How are you? Everybody else, whomever I missed, what's up to all you guys on X? We see you. Collectively, we are 124 strong. Everybody on Tony's X and on Don's X. We appreciate you on Don's YouTube channel. I know I'm not your favorite person in the world, but those of you who stuck around, we appreciate you. Get ready. Sunday night, we're going to do it. We're going to get into all of these topics and more. A lot of things will develop. We're getting up out of here. Don't burn the place down while we're gone. Donald Trump is already taking care of that. So you don't have to do it. That's one of the things he did. Trump did that. So hopefully you don't have to go through that. All right. We'll see you guys later. God bless each and every one of you. I love you. Even though a lot of you disagree with me, I love you. That's the reason I'm out here trying to talk to you. Like LA Knight. Let me talk to you. All right. Peace. Let me get out of here. Bye. We're still on the air. We're still on.